welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's a pleasure.
So, you are a classical Feng Shui master, an energy clearing guide. Maybe you can start by telling us how you came to be that, what that means, and what it is that you do.
Yes, that I'll try to shorten it because everything I do with my heart, so I get passionate about my journey. Having said that, I am one of the few Feng Shui practitioners that I know of that pays so much more respect to combining spirituality into the tools of Feng Shui and then setting intention. So I call it my three-step formula. One is let's clear the previous stagnant energy first. Let's create a clean slate. We don't know what happened in the dwelling, home, or business, walls, ceiling, paint, carpets, furnishings over the years. And let's release all that stagnation. Then we place the precisely calculated feng shui tools because I'm a classical feng shui master. So they're calculated depending on many factors, not just the back is this or the right is this. And then what your podcast relates to is then I say, okay, we've created the space, we placed the remedies, now let's go manifest. And I have created the feng shui vision boards, which my clients, it's 5 years of me teaching them annually, especially this time of the year. And it's like, okay, how do we connect to the law of attraction, intention setting, visualizing, and so on? And that's where the tools of manifestation kick in.
Okay. Well, I like how you start with clearing the energy because I think sometimes we want to just jump right into, you know, adding things, attracting things, bringing stuff into the space, but it's important to clear that energy first. How do you do that? What are some practical tips for going about clearing the energy in the space?
A little bit of background into that, Stephanie. I'm Indian background, and I grew up here in Canada. So, and my feng shui training comes from spending a month in China for the final certification. So, it's a combination of many modalities. And how energy clearing started, we grew up in a spiritual. I grew up in a spiritual based surroundings home, and I think it just stayed with me. I saw results from, the grandmothers doing certain rituals. And then finally, when it all came together for me, I went to Rishikesh, India, and I got additional training in that. That is the birthplace of yoga and meditation there. So that is definitely an Indian modality I've incorporated into it. But if I do it in my home and the clients that I've guided over the years, they do it and they see amazing results. The things that I see released, not see, feel that they're able to release when they share with me, and how it creates a beautiful energetic platform to place the feng shui tools. Once you know what you know, there's no going back.
Now, with the energy clearing in a room, does that mean the room itself is holding energy, or can specific objects be holding on to like stagnant energy?
It can be both, but to answer your question, it can be one object, but when it is in that specific space, whether it's a room or entire home or in a certain drawer, it's going to start multiplying unless we release that energy. We always say to create positive energy in our space, excuse me, it takes a lot of effort. It takes intention. It takes regularly releasing it. For the heavy energy to multiply, it multiplies on its own. So it's we have to be mindful. It all starts with us. Are we even aware? Or like you said earlier, a lot of my clients, I have to bring them back and say, let's. It's good to get excited about feng shui. They want to start placing things,
Right.
but first we need to create that platform.
How often you're saying, do this regularly in terms of clearing the energy? Is there a certain frequency, or you just go based off of how the room feels, how you feel in that space?
I have very powerful Zenergy chimes that are programmed. I can write a couple of books on what they've discovered, not just in person when I'm invited to do energy clearing, especially if somebody's buying a house that was pre-owned or they went through life happenings, health, relationship issues, and so on. It's good to reset that energy. But going back to your question on how often, there is really no wrong or right time. Once I have released the heavy energy, and I do a lot of this, 70% of my consultations are virtual. Sitting here in my office, last one was a few weeks ago in Netherlands, outside of Amsterdam. And the things that the Zenergy chimes pick up, it's like that drawer, that third drawer down, and I never need to know what's in there. It's personal to them, but I can pick up where that energy is heavy, and then we release it with my mantras and intention and the smoke ritual and so on. Once that energy has been reset by me, I say 80-90% usually, then I guide the clients to do it themselves going forward. I guide them on how they can do it. They don't need me to do it again. They maintain it. Now, how often? It really depends on their intention, on their connection, what they're feeling, and their awareness of energy. They can do it at full moon. Full moon is all about releasing what's not serving us, including heavy energy or feelings or emotions. And I always tell them that's just a reminder. Once a month, you have that beautiful calendar, a notification to remind you, and we have a grace period of 72 hours, 3 days. So if you're busy on the day of the full moon, next day or the day after, it's perfect. And we always say, by the way, during the morning time, before 12 noon. Heavy energy is harder to release as it starts to get darker outside. And then it just really depends. But there is no overdoing it. There's no wrong or right on how often, as long as we're not getting, for lack of other words, paranoid. I should do it every day or else. No, there's no such thing. Stay connected, do your rituals, but also manifest a beautiful lifestyle for yourself at the same time, and not live in fear.
Okay. So how do you use Feng Shui with manifesting, with attracting abundance or success? Is it certain items that you're placing? I'm not really sure how it all works. Maybe you can give us the beginner entry level answer.
Yes, I'll try to keep it simple. So in Feng Shui, there are 9 sectors. They all serve each other. When I get a discovery call, it's usually to do with money, finances, how can we have more, how can we strengthen our career sector. Sometimes it's about relationships and health as well. And my response at that point is, in Feng Shui, I pay respect to all 9 sectors. It is so important. When I teach the Feng Shui vision boards, it's the same thing, 9 sectors. We cannot overload the wealth one and not pay attention to fame and reputation, to family and community, to the meditation sector, to the inner child sector. They all serve each other. They're all part of life journey. So that is how I bring focus to what they can do as far as your question about the wealth or prosperity. Now, the remedies that we call in classical feng shui, I pride in saying that my clients' remedies that I recommend to them are very simple. There's no food dogs, there's no snakes or turtles, there's nothing that will be out of the comfort of their decor sense. Every client that I visit, whether it's in person or virtual, is they have their own sense of decor in their home, whether it's cultural or their liking or sometimes lack of, but it doesn't matter. That's their comfort level. And I don't go in and start to place things in there, because the last thing I want, but going back to the podcast field that you're in, connection. They need to feel connected in order to attract anything future in the law of attraction. If they see something there that's meant as a remedy, and the subconscious mind goes from here to there, to from the kitchen to the bedroom, we think we're just doing that, but the subconscious mind is connecting with everything from here to there. And when it goes by that split second, I wish that wasn't there. That's such an eyesore. I did, but Meena said it'll work. That's not going to do much. So I
Right.
keep them relatable. If it is a certain remedy for fire that's needed, if it's needed for earth, we incorporate it beautifully into their decor.
So, do you recommend people removing the objects that they have and getting new things, or they can use everything that they have existing. It's just placing it in a different place or using a ritual on it. Is that right?
Both.
Okay.
So when I do the consultations again, whether it's in person or virtual, the process is the same. The first half is we sit at the kitchen table and I share my findings with them. The other half is doing the walk around, physically or over the camera. It's all the same. Excuse me, a lot of talking today. And that is, and I always share with them that I'm one of the feng shui masters, that I have not to date made anybody move out of their current space, sell off major furniture articles, or knock down any walls or anything. We work with what we have. If there is something that's obstructing the flow of chi, excuse me,
Mhm.
a sip of water might help. If there is something that's obstructing the flow of chi, as in an image in the artwork or different shapes, or let's say somebody needed water fountain, small water fountains that we might need for prosperity, depending on my findings. But meantime, they've got the entire space decorated with red, which is fire. Fire and water, two elements, are very strong in feng shui out of the five. And fire is continuously trying to take over, and water is trying to put it out if not placed correctly. So let's say that we needed water and they've got a lot of red in there. I'll recommend certain modifications, but that's the extent of it. It is never, to this day, nobody said I can't do that. Like we always, my goal is to keep them excited. My goal is to keep them relatable because it's their energy. I always say when I leave the consultation, this is not the end of the consultation. This is the beginning of the consultation. It's the clients that reach out next day, next week, next month, that I
Mm-hmm.
know they're doing the work wholeheartedly and
Yeah.
they're the ones that see the results. So it's my job to keep them passionate.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to ask you, and I'll give you a little bit of backstory about this, but I want to ask you your take on clutter and hoarding objects because I grew up in a house where there was always clutter around. And my dad, I mean, he always says he's a pack rat, but he has a hard time letting go of things because of the, sentimental value. And as a kid, I just felt like it weighed me down. And I think, I looked at it and thought the clutter, but now, maybe it's the energy associated with the clutter, but it felt very heavy. And so now as an adult, I'm very mindful. I don't like a lot of clutter. It just helps me feel, I don't know, less stressed, I guess. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Is that actually having that effect that I'm feeling, that heaviness, that stress or anxiety? Could it be just from that clutter?
100%. 100%. Now, many different areas I can start in, but I'll start by saying a lot of times on the discovery call, people see the value, they're ready to make a shift, but they're like, Meena, should we remove the clutter first before you come? And it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So if we were able to remove all that on our own, then half the problem would have been gone. But energy is one of those things, and I always say I call it a beautiful energetic dance, by the way. Um, Somebody has to take that first step. So when we release some clutter, let's just say from a drawer, kitchen drawer, the utility drawer, or a desk drawer, energy feels appreciated. And then it empowers us. Remember, it's not something we see, it's something we feel. So it empowers us. And next day, next week, we feel a little bit more motivated and we do a little more. Energy feels more appreciated. And I call it a beautiful energetic dance, but somebody has to take that first step. So, yes, definitely weighs us down. And the other thing is, are we able to one day just wake up and say, okay, that's it, I know better, I'm going to release all this clutter? No, it needs a lot of hand holding. It needs, and we always say, start small. Start small. Now, when you say that you felt it, generally speaking, Stephanie, as you know, the females are yin energy. So generally speaking, in a home, the females or younger children will feel it more, or elderly, than the rest of us. So yes, it's there's a reason why you felt the way you felt.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem to bother my dad at all. And I always wondered how you don't feel that? Doesn't it just feel better when it's, cleared away? But that's the thing. It's like this connection to the objects because of a memory or something like that. And I've always looked at it a little bit differently in the sense that we enjoyed that. It served its purpose. And now it's time to let it go or have someone else enjoy it or find a new home. What's your take on that with
Again, you're bang on. And the reason I'm glad that you were having this part of the discussion is the example that I give is every space is always 100% full. 100%. Whether it's a drawer, whether it's a whole house, whether it's your car, it's always 100% full of energy. How much of that is heavy energy? And how
Mm.
much of it is serving energy. When I start to break it down for the clients this way, it's more relatable, you see. So I always say if it's 100% in a chaotic space, let's just say a room as an example, sometimes we have a beautiful house and everything's done except that one room that we walk into where everything is thrown. So in that space, within that space, let's say that they removed 20% of the items. Okay, they got rid of some major things or a lot of smaller things. Now, again, in the law of attraction or manifestation world, this resonates beautifully with my manifesting clients is you have just created 20% of the space for the universe to deliver to you what you're manifesting today. Not where you were when you got that or when somebody gave it to you. Or, a lot of times it's things that are not serving us in the way of they're either broken. We mean to get them fixed, but we haven't gotten around to it. As an example, and by the way, anything with an electrical charge amplifies the stagnation. Okay, so old printers, scanners, anything, old broken lamps, TVs, double the stagnation.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh, I literally have an old printer and then my new printer is sitting on top of it, which I keep saying I need to get rid of the old printer and then I don't. So there's
I'm
my
glad that
sign.
I could motivate you. There's just so much power in it, Stephanie, especially in your productive area, your
Yeah.
productivity area,
Well,
right?
yeah,
In your
it's right in my
office.
office where I'm
In your
supposed to
office,
be
also
productive.
in your bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where
Okay.
we rest and rejuvenate 1/3 of our life, or we should be 8 hours a night. Your front entrance, where the energy enters from, kitchen, where it's cooked and served to the family for health and wealth. So again, entire home, but just to give you an idea, those are the areas. And yes, to go back to your question about removing, make the space. We're busy manifesting, and it started with the major awareness. I mean, of course it started years ago, but major awareness now, I can't believe it's 25 years almost when The Secret came out. More people got familiar with the law of attraction, but that's one thing on the tools on how to manifest, but are we creating the energetic spaces for it to receive it? I always say I am energy's biggest advocate because I don't feel there's enough emphasis on this. And there are so many amazing beings working on manifestation, to working on the body, working on the mind, working on the soul. But I don't feel there's enough awareness on working on the spaces that house it all.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So this is so aligned with what we're talking about right now in my mastermind. Not so much creating space in the home, but in your heart, in your mind, because there's so much mental clutter too, right? And we were literally just talking about this over the past week, clearing, I think I even phrased it, clearing the mental clutter so that you can create that space, which is very counterintuitive. Well, not counterintuitive, but it goes against kind of how we're conditioned in society, you're supposed to be busy and you're supposed to be do, when really, no, we need to take a step back and clear, make space, and focus more on being, right?
Totally. You know that word multitasking that we were so proud to say years
Yes.
ago. I remember I used to say I'm the multitasking queen in my previous life, like 20 years ago. And now it's a total opposite. I call it surrender now.
Yeah.
surrender, and just soak in what's coming to you. When we're so busy taking charge of next, 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 and the to-do list, and we go to sleep with that and we wake up with that, well, where's the space for the universe to deliver anything? If we don't give the time and energy to say, okay, I'm ready to receive, we're just going out and putting it out there. But when are we actually grounding our energy and ready to receive?
It's so funny. In my very first job interview ever, that was one of my strengths. I was a multitasker, it was like a badge of honor. And now I cringe when I hear that word.
Yes. A lot of us are in that same boat. But when you said that we're conditioned a certain way, that was then, right? But we're all evolving. We're all evolving till our last breath. So let's make use of what we're aware of today, and
Yeah,
not what the society led us to where we are, which is fine. But everybody did the best they could under the circumstances. But we know different now.
right.
I don't say we know better. We know differently, right? So let's be more mindful.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Don't beat yourself up over the past. We're learning and we're growing and evolving. Now, I don't mean to jump all over the place, but I do have a question earlier when you said if someone has a lot of red, for example, that's the fire sign. So color has an impact on the energy in the room as well, because I didn't
So
really think about that before.
yes and no. So I'm trained in classical feng shui. Classical feng shui, the Indian in me wouldn't allow me to do it any other way. And classical feng shui is where it originated over 5,000 years ago. So if you were to go into Western feng shui or BTB or other types of different types of modalities, which were brought into North America in the 80s roughly, it's simplified. Blue is water, red is fire. In classical feng shui, it is very precise. Where's the energy entering from? All that happens in my office. My delivery is still very simple, but behind the scenes, it's like when we do astrology reading, what is your date of birth, place of birth, time of birth, and then they create a reading versus go on in the newspaper like we used to, and every Gemini will be the same and every Aries will be the same. Classical feng shui is like that. So my remedies are precisely calculated based on when the house was born, when the roof went on, the square footage, the year it was built, and other factors. Once I have the remedies, I prescribe or recommend actual remedies versus color. So, as an example again of the water fountain, it'll be a small fountain, but which way to face it and what shape and color and so on. Yes, it's simple. They can get it on Amazon, but within my recommendations, no problem. If it's
Mm-hmm.
metal, it's a certain thing. If it's earth, certain type of ceramic ware and so on. Fire, a small red nightlight. So again, it's very important to be mindful of not too much of something is not a good thing either, as in fire or water. Water, if you were to Google general feng shui, even the symbol of it is up and down. And if there's too much blue in the space where water was needed, but just too much of it, up and down emotions, disconnection. And if it's too much red versus just a small red nightlight, as you know, one match can take down a whole forest.
Mm-hmm.
So too much of red is not, then there's sparks
Mm-hmm.
flying in the home, right? So I recommend it according to their space and what's needed and not just in general place blue or red everywhere.
What's your take? You said you're in Canada, right? So I don't know how it is in Canada, but here in the US, in the public schools, they look just like prisons. I was at my daughter, she had a function at school and we were in the cafeteria and I was looking around and it just felt so I don't know what the word
Institutionalized.
is,
Yeah.
but I told my husband this looks just like a prison cafeteria. And then I thought the building looks like a prison, the halls. Uh, what is your take on the way those are designed? Is that harmful to the energy of the kids that are going there? Because it doesn't feel good to me.
So, a few things, Stephanie. One is they've been around forever, and in the Western world, that's how they were. In the Eastern world, they're created more like temples. Everything starts with beautiful chanting in the morning and prayers, and there's always there has always. I grew up the first 7 years of my life in India. I can totally relate, but I also know from the rest of my clients and friends and family that I've shared of their upbringing. Having said that, it is what it is. We got this far. Not everything is in the world that we can change. However, change happens at home, right? The children are in the school for what, 8 hours, if that, right? The rest of the time they're home. So starting, I love it when my clients want the whole family to sit in on the consultation. Of course, I keep it relatable. I won't be talking certain things to the children, but they get fascinated about
Mhm.
crystals that I've incorporated into my practice. They get fascinated about their rooms and certain things, the artwork that they placed in their rooms. And if not more, at least 8 hours they spend in their room, right? So
Yeah.
let's create that energetic platform there. It starts there. And then when they go into the world, they will take that with them. And then the rest of the time, where they're doing their homework at home, what is the energy in the home? And energy in the home isn't always about placement. It's about in our conversational style. That's another topic for another day. But inner child is a whole area in Feng Shui in the Northwest. Sorry, in the
Okay.
West. It's a whole children and inner child is all in the West. We place a high emphasis on that. It's
Hmm.
important to create that at home for them. So wherever they go, whether it's school or the energy somewhere else, they take their own energy with them.
I love that you encourage for people to have their kids on the calls because, I mean, why not make it, where the whole family can be involved? And it's funny because last night my 5-year-old daughter, she was in my office and I heard her tinkering around with things. And when I went in there, she had my crystals and she was like placing them all over. And I remember thinking, because I knew I was going to talk with you, I'm like, I wonder if, she's somehow like sensing where to put them. I said, why'd you put the crystals all over the place? She said, I don't know. I just like them there.
Yeah. In the world of crystals, we always say we don't pick them, they pick us. The
Yeah.
crystals obviously were ready to connect with her. And how old is your daughter?
5.
Oh, they're just especially fun. Like, the younger ones, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're connected. They're connected
Hmm.
more than until society takes over. Girls don't do this, boys don't do this, and so on. And we put high emphasis on this in the West, and the inner child component of the feng shui. But going back to that, the crystals were ready to connect with her, and she tuned in and she connected in her own way. But
Yeah.
earlier you were saying about, the children. I have one client on the East Coast. By the way, a lot of my clients are in US as well. And I have a client in the East Coast, and once a year, February 4th was the Feng Shui New Year, and once a year we do short calls and rearranging the remedies for another year, and then they're good for 12 months. Just like astrology, the planets evolve, so do the Feng Shui remedies. So this year she said, since it's been 5 years of working together, can I have my teenage children, both my son and daughter, join in on the call too? I said, of course. She said, Meena, they're so fascinated by everything we've been doing for 5 years. We've seen amazing success in their lives in school. And again, for confidentiality, I can't share more than that. But she said that, can they join the call? I said, of course. It warms my heart when a 13 and a 15-year-old want to sit in. Yes.
I think sometimes we think, oh, they're too young or they're not gonna, but no, I really find my kids are really drawn to all kinds of things that I would think would be over their head. But no, like you said, they're more connected. They're still pure and haven't had all this conditioning to sort of teach them to not pay attention to what's coming through. They just go with it. I
Yes.
love that. That's great that
And on the flip side, Stephanie, I'm
hmm
also big on don't force it on anybody. I tell
yeah.
my clients, they're like, well, no, I want them to hear this. It's like, okay, let's do our part. Do the remedies, invite beautiful, prosperous feng shui energy into your home. Let the energy do its part. And in
Hmm.
within a few months or a year or so on, they will turn around when they're ready. So it works both ways. If they're ready to receive, yes, let's work with them. If they're not, don't push it on them.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. I have one more sort of strange question that I want to get your opinion on. Um, what do you think about the EMF signals, like the Wi-Fi in the house? Should we be shutting that off at night? Is it okay to leave it on? Do you have a certain opinion on that?
Yes. So first of all, regarding the crystals relating to EMF, I have an ebook on my website, the 8 crystals that we use in Feng Shui. We don't talk about the other 200 because there's one for every area of life. Having said that, hematite is a crystal that we don't talk about it commonly, so it's not in my 8 crystals. But hematite is a crystal that you can place in the area where a lot of the devices are. As an example, some of my clients' homes are 8,000 square feet, so you can just imagine the security. They have a whole room downstairs in the basement, usually close to the furnace room or somewhere, where it's full of all the electrical wires, and we place the hematite in there. And the next one that I'm a big advocate on is black tourmaline with mica, and that one I highly endorse. That's a protection crystal that can also be used for that. Now, going back to should we be turning it off at nighttime, it's really a personal preference. I am big on staying connected. How much can we really protect ourselves from out there? Is it taking over us? Are we getting paranoid? Are we getting stressed about what's not in our control? Or are we just living contentfully? To me, I'd rather live with intention and to attempt to remedy the things that are in my control and not stress about the rest of it. Am I oblivious, or do I guide my clients to be? No, but it's a balance. It's a balance of not letting those fears take over us. So I have the crystals. I have also placed it in my clients' homes when there's been a concern, either I've observed or they brought to my attention, and then we leave it at that.
That's a great tip. And it's true. I think sometimes when we're trying to get into, wellness and just doing the right thing, sometimes that paranoia can come in and then you're focused on that. So then are you attracting that? So I think I love what you're saying. Just be content, do what's in your control because really that's all that we can do.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, I focus on quality of life. Quality of life. We always say there's actually a whole area in Feng Shui in the North called life's journey. We come and then we go. What was the quality of life while we were here? Did we evolve? Or we were too busy stressing out about things that weren't in our control?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe you can let everyone know, well, where can they find you if they're interested in booking an appointment? And is there anything that they need to do beforehand? Is there any type of prep work or is meeting with you kind of the first step in the process?
It's a process which starts with a complimentary call, and then I always tell the clients on the complimentary call, this is just for you to ask me questions, or I might ask questions in before I reply to them. It's just like this. We just converse, and I always tell them that there's no pressure. There's never any follow-up calls. There's no discounts offered on the spot. In the realm of energy, it doesn't work like that. We're now booking into end of April. The universe is keeping me busy. Whoever's meant to receive, the universe connects me. I work around the world virtually, and in my office in the East Coast and the West Coast, I have 2 offices, and life is fine. I deliver with my heart and my soul, and but there's no pressure. So really, if somebody has a question in general, they can find us on our website, Momentum Feng Shui, and my assistant will share the links with you, and we go from there. We're on Instagram. It's my way of giving back. Instagram and Facebook. Feng Shui with Meena on Instagram, and Facebook is Momentum Feng Shui. I think we post 3 to 4 times a week there. I give the tips for every one question that's asked. I know there's many others that can benefit, so it's my way of giving back.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, I will link everything in the show notes as well so people can just click on it and go and find you. But this has been so helpful. So thank you so much, Meena, for giving us so many good tips. And anyone that is feeling ready can go to the link in the show notes and reach out to you.
Yes, and I will be here, God willing. Thank you again, Stephanie. It was a beautiful conversation. Stay connected to the realm of energy. You're doing your part, and it warms my heart. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you back here next time.